So I will be using my papers a little bit, which is a really no-go for TED Talkers. But I felt I should have here a story today that's more sincere and more genuine instead of a moral talk about how I perceive things. So, I'm Efza Ustuner, as they said, and I'm a graduate in this building. I graduated around 6 years ago. So, who decides our future? So leave God out of the picture for a second. Then who decides our future? Our parents? Ourselves? Or maybe the system? Perhaps some of you guys take it for granted sitting here, but I did not. And I'll explain you why later, but before I will talk about the future, I want to take you on a journey to the past. Because if it wasn't for two very visionary men that make big choices long ago, I wouldn't be standing here in front of you today. First of all, my great-grandfather, who made the choice to leave Syria at the age of 17. He felt that there was more to life than living in a poor family, in a poor community, where there were hardly any opportunities. So he left his family and this community and all that was familiar to him in exchange for a future abroad, an uncertain future abroad. Of course, that was before all those custom and border controls got so strict that I don't even know if he had a passport at the time. But anyway, so let's leave it at that. And and thank God, of course, we have Twitter and Facebook and WhatsApp nowadays. But he didn't then. So, not knowing if he would ever see his family again, he left to Turkey, barefooted, because he did not have money for shoes or even to travel. So barefoot, he walked all the way from Syria to Turkey. So he made a courageous choice, but paid a very high price. And he went back only once or twice. One of those times he went back to get his bride from his own community because he felt that it was the only way to, feel more at home at the new country that he now lived in. They raised 9 children together. One of them was my grandfather, who was the second reason that I'm standing here in front of you today. In 2 generations, they went from having children with no education or hardly any education to a family with children who all graduated, of which 3 even graduated from university, and one of them was my mother. My grandfather moved from Turkey to the Netherlands when my mother was 3 years old. Like his father, he didn't doubt for 1 second to migrate to this country when he had the opportunity to do so. History repeated itself as also this family lived separated for a long while. My grandparents at the time had 4 children, and my grandmother reunited with my grandfather 4 years after he had left. My mother was 7 when she came to the Netherlands with her mother and her siblings. After they settled in the Netherlands, they had my twin aunts. They were born in this country just like I was. All 6 children were raised to be successful individuals. My mother especially did a very good job as she became a writer and actress. So my future was assured. After graduation, my dream was to go to England or the US, and my future was open for me. All doors were open, and I was obsessed by this future. A new exciting chapter of my life was going to happen and going to start. I hardly enjoyed the present, but then, just before the finals, in February 2007, my mom was involved in a severe car accident. When she was in Istanbul for a short trip, she was a passenger in a cab when 2 young men who just got their driving license decided to play a race game on the highway. The cab with my mom in it flipped over multiple times and ended up on a bus on the other side of the highway. Eventually, the cab fell from the bus as well and landed on the road with my mom in it. There were 6 cars involved in the crash, and my mom was the only one who was severely injured. Luckily, she survived, but she will be spending the rest of her life in a wheelchair. So all of a sudden, my whole life turned upside down. In May, I would have the final exams, but I did not pass all of them. So I didn't graduate. Perhaps I didn't work enough to pass the finals in the first place, but we'll never know that. Then horror times followed. We weren't sure of what my mom's life, or our life for that matter, was going to look like. On top of that, I also failed my driving license test exam and ending up feeling like a complete loser. I felt that my whole life was one big failure. I thought I would never graduate. I thought I even didn't want to go to college anymore. I thought I couldn't. So I was ready to give up all my future plans and dreams, and I wanted to stay close to my mother and be there for her as much as possible. So very logically, I ended up working as a legal secretary at a multinational law firm. 5 days a week that was. Not so much fun. Within the first 2 weeks, I was asked to translate in a big international case during a conference call with London and Dubai. Seriously, me, I thought? The partner associate I worked for and who knew my IB background and asked me to help her out, after which several lawyers had noticed me and took me along with big cases, and I got to do very exciting things. But in the long run, I wasn't being challenged enough. It got boring, and I felt that I needed to get this IB diploma and do big things with my life. Well, that's why they don't let people read. So that year, I went back to follow the courses that I hadn't passed, and I graduated from the AICS at the age of 19. Before I went to college, I traveled to India, which was the first time for me to travel so far away from home on my own. That whole year changed my life in many ways, but mostly in the sense that I lost my fears and regained my self-trust again, and my dreams. When I got back, I decided that the activities I was going to be involved in outside of school also should be meaningful. Instead of babysitting or working at a restaurant, I became the chairman of a student organization within my department at the uni. 4 years ago, I even started my own little company, working as a freelance trainer, moderator, and a brainstorm expert within both the corporate and the social fields. My mission is to create revenue at the corporate side so that I can offer my workshops also at the social field for a way lower fee or even for free. Community building, diversity, and connection are the big themes in my work, but also in my life, which brings me back to how I started the talk with. So I've talked about ourselves, our parents, and now I want to talk about the system affecting our future. I am where I am not only because I recognized opportunities, they were also given to me. I wasn't offspring of the hot type foreigners, like expats. No, but for once, my immigrant background was an advantage as my double nationality allowed me to be in this school. Okay, so back to the system. In this country, in the Netherlands, parents have freedom of school choice. So at one point, your parents needed to choose a school for you guys. In order to make the right choice, parents need a lot of resources. By resources, Dr. Sigal Ben-Porath, who is an educational scholar, mostly means information and knowledge and the capacity to use that knowledge to make the right school choice for their kids. There are two aims that the current Dutch educational system there are two aims within our Dutch educational system. One is greater freedom for parents, and two, greater equality for families. But they don't coincide very well. The system is not structured to fulfill the promise that it makes. The school choice your parents had to make had to be the right one the first time around, because it affects your future academically, but also in the broader sense. It's a bit like boyfriends and girlfriends. You can change once or twice, but the third time in 1 year you're going to change, it's going to look a little funny. So, and also you wouldn't be able to form meaningful relationships. So obviously your mommies and daddies understood all of that and made the right choice to bring you to this fantastic school. And I will always realize how privileged I am being an IB graduate. I still experience the effects of it. It was an opportunity that my mother was able to offer because of her own status and accomplishments, like your parents. But don't all children have the right to access good education, great education, like you are enjoying now? Are opportunities really equal, or mostly dependent on their socioeconomic background? Who might have been standing here and is not? Think about it. Having said that, think about your future. Dream about whatever you want. But before you know, you get in a cab and your whole life changes in a split second. So mostly enjoy the moments that were given to you. Live in the here and now. Thank you.